You mentioned doing some drills that mimic Hunter Mahan and Matsuyama.
Hunter Mahan obviously had a very clean pause at the top, deep set. Hideki's more known for the actual pause that he plays with.
Right.
For me, it was a big thing. I used to be super loose with the club. When I don't practice enough, the first thing I do for some reason is whenever I want to hit one hard or tug on the handle, I lay the club way down. It works if you can pivot properly, but end of the day, it does do a lot of problems to the club face, and it's hard to square it up. The way we would sort of groove this, my dad and I here would be do a pause drill. So we'd get to the top. My dad would be sitting behind me. He'd be like, good, everything looks great. And we'd go through transition. So obviously when you're doing the pause up top, you need to make sure everything is loaded properly so you have the power. You see Hideki with his freaking tree trunk of legs.
Yeah.
He's freaking loaded wide up because he's going just as fast as anyone else, and he doesn't even have a backswing. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then we would do it blind. Then you know that everything is on.
Exactly. If you want me to do that, I can.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see one.
All right, I'll hit one eyes closed.
So put a camera on his eyes to make sure he's closed. That's right.
Pause at the top, eyes closed.
Pause at the top, eyes closed. Oh, a little skinny.
That was a little skinny on the toe.
That was a hosel.
That's right. We got one more. Come on.
Eyes closed, still talking.
Yeah.
Flushed. There you go.
Right, now you can open. There you go.
Nine, 10 years old, I loved hitting balls. I didn't like doing anything else. The first, I guess, lesson in golf for me was just distance.
Xander Schauffele is an up-and-coming star. In just 3 years on tour, Xander has won 4 events and has proven to be a major contender with 3 top 3s.
Xander Schauffele is your champion.
He's one of the best players in the world, one of the best young Americans, that's for sure.
But X-Men doesn't do it alone. His lifelong swing coach, Stefan, is better known as his father. Although Stefan's athletic career was cut short as a young man after a car accident left him blind in his left eye, Xander's proving the Schauffele name is one to know. I traveled to San Diego to learn more from the Schauffeles.
Coming from track and field, we were taught that speed is created in the middle teenage years. If you start later, you will never develop as much speed as you would if you work in those years. I took that from my past and applied it to him, and basically encouraged him to hit it as hard and as fast as he can.
I've heard people tell me on tour, it doesn't look like I swing very hard, but the ball comes off kind of hot. Nice for me to swing 130 and have 190 ball speed, but it's hard for me with my short arms and my leverage and legs. You know what I mean? I'm just not tall enough to do that.
You have a very efficient impact, and obviously the trajectory.
Exactly. So when you say speed, a lot of it is sort of everything's kind of coming up from the ground.
Okay.
When I was young, he had hammer and a nail, a very simple concept, but when you swing a hammer, he actually had me do it in the backyard. I thought it was
for a week.
I thought it was the most fun thing.
A single
I was
strike.
A little kid, and he'd show me sort of. He says, kid, you need to take this hammer and you need to nail this thing down in the plank of wood with 1 hit. Because I was too weak, it'd always take me 2 hits to get the nail in.
Oh, wow.
There's sequence in everything you do,
right,
for the most part, you know what I mean? You take it, you load this hammer, and at the right time, you have to let it all out. Golf is so static.
Yeah.
Every other sport, you're moving, you're jumping, you're leading your foot. Like it's such an easy move. A step out drill is really simple. So anything where I'll take the club like a quarter of the way back. I'll step out here, I'll feel a load in this back cheek, and then my force, me stepping out already puts a ton of force down in my left heel here, which is already helping transition. I don't really hit balls on the course, stepping out. My version of a step out on the course is sort of a bit of a heel lift.
Oh, interesting.
I feel the same sequence and power with a heel lift. So what I'll do is I'll take the club sort of a quarter of the way back, and I'll feel a little bit of a left heel lift here. You can see a ton of great players do it.
The trail foot being square. So you like that from a loading of that trail leg?
That comes again from track and field. You know, a shot put in particular, like a baseball player off the mound, put a stick down.
You have a stick here. A little bit of
like a pitcher down the mound. His trail foot is pointed inward, right? You can push off something pointed inward, but you cannot push off something pointing outward.
So basically, you're saying you don't really want to see this foot turned out.
Not ever. If anything, we always taught with good side, bad side, right? Yeah. And I would always clearly say the good side is to be turned in, the bad side is to be turned out.
It's hard to get rotation with your hip if your foot's in. Much easier here, but then if your foot's way flared out, you don't get any load in your right cheek. So there's a very fine line of where this foot needs to be. But I've lived and I've played golf on both sides of it, and I've had success doing both. But I feel personally the most load and the strongest in my right cheek when this thing is pretty close to.
So you're feeling this in your right glute.
Yeah,
when you wind up.
When you load up, I mean, when you do anything, like if you're trying to throw a ball or anything, it's all I'm right-handed, so everything is always loaded in this right side. If you have no load, if I'm gonna punch you in the face right now, like I need to step back. Yeah. That's not just golf. So like I said, I'm not gonna hit you in the face, but if I'm gonna load up and try and lay one on you, I'm not gonna sit here with all my weight on my left side. I'm not gonna lay a very good hit on you. You know what I mean? Yeah. You sort of sit back, load it, and then you can explode into it. Yeah. It's the same for, I think, I would dodge it anyways. Athletic, you're pretty ninja-like. But it sort of applies to everything here, you know what I mean? If you're not getting a good load into this, you have no chance of delivering the club properly. And then you might start doing all kinds of funky stuff to try and, because you have no force coming through the ball. So we'll just start nice and easy here. First shot.
So that's basically load into the right glute and then step into the left heel.
For sure. Training with my lady here at home, Rana Simonian. Okay. The load is always sort of in this area of your foot. If you get any pressure outside of this foot, you're losing everything. It's like he said on a pitcher's mound, it helps because you dig your foot in. So your foot's already loaded on this step here. If I'm loading and I get outside, her rule is always the kneecap can't go outside the big toe. That's what she looks at when she watches me hit. Yeah. So when I'm here, I need this to be here, good steady load here, and then when I transfer, all my pressure is here on sort of big toe, just inside in this area here, and everything shoots into this left heel, and it can pivot nicely.
On the backswing for you, the load is in the right glute, but you're feeling a lot of the pressure on the inner part of your trail foot, almost like you're on a pitcher's mound.
Exactly.
And like you said, just don't let that trail knee get outside the big toe of your
When I'm doing the drill, it's a little harder because I do start back, and the motion, fortunately, the motion is so towards the target and lateral here that I don't have trouble sort of moving.
Yeah, but you're exaggerating your transfer, which is fine.
You don't a weight transfer for sure, as if I was trying to pitch up and out or something. I'll do it in a slow way. Like I've done ones where I'll step. I feel a load right now, and then I felt all my weight going to my left heel there.
Yeah, that's great.
The heel touching the ground is also the impulse for the hit, right? So this is on top of it, it's impact timing.
For sure.
It's wonderful. So that it does two things. That's why it's a phenomenal drill. It's a very simple drill. It's an old drill. I think people don't realize how valuable it is.
It was funny. He actually, when I was younger, he'd always ask me, like, tennis players.
I wanted him to be voice.
He wanted me to grunt. And I'm like, dude.
Or saying, no, it's just impact, impact time.
He always told me, if you have a solid impact, you can get away with a lot of problems. Right. If you have good coordination and a good impact to close the door, you can get away with a lot.
I mean, drawing on the sort of punching analogy, you hear a lot of boxers make that, right? It's the same idea.
Tennis players, they grunt. When, right when that ball's coming in, they're grunting on contact.
I'm surprised.
I couldn't, you're not going to hear me, Serena Williams out here, like, grunting on impact.
Maybe a little bit of like a...
That was your Wookiee noise? Are you kidding me?
Okay.
You sound like
Let's hear it.
You sound like a quail or something.
Let's hear it then. Come on.
I'll mix one in later. Too much pressure.
Coming up.
Make me kind of relax everything.
And then this goes first.
And then,
Oh, that's great.
Then I'd fire.
And we do this a lot.
This would sort of be the sensation that I would get. Something as simple as this.
The backswing is utterly irrelevant, simply because we register the club face to a part of our body, maybe the palm of your right hand or the back of your left hand. I personally actually use this little segment here. For that reason, the backswing that we use is only there to put the club into a position that allows you then to make a good motion to strike it. So I don't pay much attention to the backswing.
Earlier we were on the range, we talked about sort of comparative data or swing analysis and through video. You look at all the top 50 players in the world and their impact positions. Everyone gets there a different way, but everyone has such a similar impact position. And like you said, it doesn't, you're just trying to get the bat in a certain position. It doesn't really matter what goes on up here, as long as you can get yourself down to close the door and get to that impact zone, you know, properly. Backswing is sort of irrelevant. I was struggling a little bit in Korea, classic pro, trying to find it on the range.
Yeah.
I was sitting right there and I was watching Gary Woodland hit. And I was like, dang, this guy's pure. One noticeable thing about his swing, it's very compact, it's short, and he has a ton of lag. I've heard people sort of be like, oh, if you have too much lag, like you'll lean the handle through, you'll lean it, and you won't be able to square it up and you'll hit it way right, you know, but like I said, feel versus real. I've always been someone who hasn't had enough, I'd say. And, you know, my dad, the way he taught me was always the good and the bad side. You know, obviously everyone wants to be perfect.
The light side or the dark side?
Light side or the dark side. And he always wanted to put me on the good side. In his teaching world, having too much lag is on the safer side.
Why don't you show first what your sensation was?
Yeah, so the sensation is sort of, something that I sort of hate about my golf swing, which is a lever that's been created for more speed, is you want this left arm to be straight traditionally. You'll see a few guys with more broken arms. Breaking the arm does give you an extra lever into the ball. I'm a little guy, I need some help. The problem is it's not consistent how much it breaks here and there. But I've been sort of, I get to the top of the swing, and in the past couple years, I've been sort of breaking my arm, which has actually been throwing the club this way.
Oh, interesting. So you're almost creating a lever here, but losing a lever there in a sense.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it sort of happens naturally. I don't know why it does. He's noticed it. It bugs the heck out of him. This will be sort of an off-season thing. My trainer, she thinks that I'm just not strong enough.
Okay.
Which is what we're blaming it on now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try and get a little bit stronger, you know, just to keep this arm very stable. But, you know, in Asia, I was watching Gary hit and he takes it to here and he's just whipping it. You know, I feel sort of like when you crack a whip, it's sort of the sensation I had. So I felt a lot of it sort of in the wrist here. When I was coming down, I would get my proper load, just like everything else was the same. His saying for me is sort of leave the club behind you.
Okay.
That's sort of what he would tell me.
That's what it looks like. It's almost like as you change directions, the club's still going the other
shaft
way.
is a rubber band and stretches
Yeah.
out. Your club face stays behind you.
Now, do you feel like you need to be wider in your wrist to have a little room to be able to do that?
I mean, it would definitely help.
Okay.
I think I've always, from being young, you know, when I was 12, 13, in order to hit it far, just basic math, the bigger arc you have, the more, you know, speed you can create. So obviously, you know, if I'm
More
like,
acceleration from the arc.
on the
If
arc,
I can
yeah.
give you the math. Yeah.
Thank you. I play golf. I'm not into all that stuff.
But that's the Stefan.
Oh, hey, I specialize in math. I started
you go.
studying it. It's good.
So when I was young, that's another thing. You know, we'd work on being very wide.
Okay.
Obviously, being very wide helps you.
Well,
get
and
into
then
a
also
position.
when you're wide, and we would do something like this.
Yeah, this is sort of
where-
the kinesthetic stuff that we would do. But he would let me take the club to the top, and now he would hold the club there and make me kind of relax everything.
And then this goes first.
And then, you know,
Oh, that's great.
then I
And
would
we,
fire.
and we do this a lot.
This
right?
would
So-
sort of be the sensation that I would get. Something as simple as this. So it feels like I was pulling a rope, or he has weird analogies.
Well, and
He's
like-
a weird guy.
Yeah, and like you had
I'm an
mentioned, you give like a bunch of different potential feels, and then you pull out the one that
Right.
resonates with
That's
you.
exactly
That's
true.
exactly right. And so this kind of helped him with the thought process that yes, you can pull out that shaft, you can pull it apart because it's a rubber band, and I'm holding here, and you actually. Well, letting the shaft out is the old term. You know that one.
Yeah.
That's sort of exactly what we're intending to do.
I love this. So it's basically a general feeling of kind of wide, maybe not fully set in the wrist going back, and then in transition, you start going the other way, but the club still is traveling back, and that's where you get a lot of lag in the wrist.
Nowadays, I'll get to this top position here, and if my heel is a little up, this is the start. So when I stomp my heel down, I can feel the club load.
Oh, awesome.
This is sort of, for me personally, I don't know if this can work for everyone, but
That's
that's
why they
feeling.
grunt. Yeah, that's
That
why
is
they
when
grunt
I
on
know
this
how to
place.
crack when to crack the whips. Because I get up, I'm totally coiled up. I'm loaded here. When this thing stomps down, this club starts to load here. So it's sort of the sensation I get is really simple. You know, winding up, nice and easy here, and then boom, boom, this goes, and then this cracks down. So pretty simple. I mean, I can sort of exaggerate the feeling here, but obviously, you know, if I'm sitting here and I don't get loaded enough and I don't feel proper sequence, the club will go this way. And now you're just fighting your face. Your face is, there's nothing there to maintain it, sort of, to hold it you know, square as long as possible, or to keep it open at all through impact. So my feeling, you know, nice and slow, I'll lift a little bit heel, and right when I stomp, I'll feel the club lag here, so.
Oh, that's
as simple as that.
The sequence is pure.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of sequence training to feel more, to have the sensory system take over rather than having the distance that you think.
a lot of like moving in two directions at the same time, right? With the step,
Yep.
Your lower body's going as your upper body's still maybe transitioning the other way a bit.
That's right.
With the club, your hands start down, but the club's going the other way. So it's this theme of like all your body parts almost moving in different directions to create stretch and an overall sense of dynamic, right?
For sure.
Is that fair?
Yeah, athletes have to move. I mean, there's just no way
Right.
about it.
My Swing Expedition continues on GolfPass as Xander and Stefan Schauffele share their breakthrough moment on the golf course. Members can stream now on golfpass.com.
My dad goes, do you want to be more of a Tiger Woods or do you want to be more of a Freddie Couples? Freddie is awesome swing, free flowing. He doesn't really care what he's doing. He just knows how to put the club face on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Tiger, on the other hand, wants to know everything.
Sure.
You know, you
Yeah.
worked with him, so you know exactly how this all works.
Yeah.
I said, I want to be more like Tiger Woods. Of course, at a young age, it would have been much easier to be more of a Freddie Couples. I probably would have played a lot
Would have been
better.
easier for me. Yeah.
For sure. But I said I wanted my dad to explain everything to me. And you know, now I understand it more at 25, but it took 8 years of just beating heads with him to sort of get to where I'm at now.
All right.
Beautiful. Xander, got a lot of stuff going on here. Take us through it.
Quite simple. These are all tools that you see that, you know, I travel with week to week. I'm a simple guy. You know, my dad knows that. These are tools that I have in my golf bag. We have 2 alignment sticks, usually travel with 2 to 3, a glove box. This system is very personalized. It's a sort of a system, a personal reset system of check, whether I'm hitting it good or bad. You know, my dad and I will sort of replug myself into this little mini check system to make sure that everything is around par, I guess.
Yeah, kind of in the same ballpark with your
Exactly.
setup and all that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
also when you haven't hit for maybe 2 weeks.
I just
you went
don't,
on a trip or whatever.
exactly. I don't like to hit as much. You know, as a young pro, I've tried to learn how to relax a little bit more.
I would imagine even if you're playing a lot or windy conditions, our swings are in flux. That's just sort of the reality of it, right? It's why you see someone play really great one week and then the next week they might miss the cut.
This is aggressive. Wow, what a shot.
Humans are the biggest variable, us players and conditions. There's so much going on. So this is just, call it what you want, but a baseline. Ogre would call it a template. So here we have, you know, a couple black lines. This is a sand wedge, a 5-iron, and a driver for me. Not only does this check where it is in your stance, it also checks the distance from the ball. So I marked these when I was hitting it pretty well my rookie year, or even on the web.com, I think, and I've had the same sort of markings ever since. Depending on what ball flight I'm trying to hit, sometimes, you know, I'll be a little bit closer, a little further away, but for the most part, like you said, baseline. So I'll grab a sand wedge. This is a 6-iron, unfortunately, but I'll have a sand wedge and I'll sort of close my eyes, you know, get a good feel, walk up to it, and I'll take my stance, give it a little wiggle, and then I'll open my eyes and sort of see where I'm at. So I imagine I had a sandwich in my hands, and boom, I'm right on the money, right? My toes are right where that black line should be. Once I do this, you know, moving forward to the golf ball, now I sort of have an idea of where I need to be in relation to it. This glove right here is another super simple thing. I told you earlier before the Masters, I was hitting it horrendous. You know, I wasn't really sweating it, but I couldn't really figure out, I was just hitting everything left. Ogre was yelling at me because I was, you know, being stubborn and whatnot. And so finally he just, you know, told me to shut up and he put this glove box down. He says, put your face up behind this. So I you know, grabbed this, a simple right edge right here, put my iron right behind it, got the face square to it. And he says, now grab the club. And he said, look at the club. I was like, holy smokes, this looks like a, you know, butter knife. It just looks awful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So during the whole year at the Masters this year, I played with what felt was a face I was
You trusted
wide open. I did trust it. I mean,
through that objective measurement that was right.
exactly.
That was square.
And at any point, on the course, you know, I was trying to find like a tee box or
some sort of straight edge.
Some sort of straight edge where I can just put my face down and sort of register it and kind of like just casually walk away. You know, I was doing it all tournament because I just didn't have the right feels down at all.
Right.
Yeah, but that's also a cycle, right? We've been actually, since then, we're trying to figure out how long his cycle takes to actually see real again, right? It would be wonderful to say, hey, it takes 2 hours per day for a week, and then we could actually say like we're going to take next week off because we know we're going to be fine in 2 weeks. And we're trying to get to stuff like this.
But I mean, that's, like you said, there's so many variables and moving parts. You know, if I slept funny one night or I had extra glasses of wine or something, you know what I mean? Didn't sleep at all, slept too much.
Yeah, played computer games.
There's so much weird, there's so many weird, okay, take it easy. There's so many weird, run it through really quick, set up, make sure this is square to the alignment stick, set up square here, and if I want to really get into it, you know, get behind this, make sure, you know, the 6 iron's a little shorter, but get into that, and then so I'm like, okay, now I have everything very much neutral for my feel. Then I would bring it in here. So now I would set up, and before I would even hit, I would sort of set up into it, face is neutral and everything, and I would just like look down my target line, and I'm like, man, it looks terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that's what is correct. You know what I mean? Of course, I have my dad's eye behind me, and he goes, that's square, kid. And I'm just like, all right, well, time to hit some balls. And this is sort of where we start from.
Next week on Swing Expedition, we journey to South Florida to go inside the mind of Brad Faxon, one of the greatest putters of all time. Learn the mindset he uses on the greens and the mechanics he relied on throughout his career. It's next Monday on Swing Expedition.
What's next for me is to sort of take my shots at majors, contend more each week. I don't contend enough, I think. Me personally, or I know he doesn't think that for sure. In order to leave your name in history here on the game of golf is to sort of win majors, you know? Leave your mark is sort of what I feel like would be sort of the next big step in my career. I'm having a lot of fun along the way, but you know, I'm talking, you know, next 5-10 years is sort of what we have in mind.
Love it. I mean, I feel like you're right there. To me, it's only a matter of time. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been really insightful and been a great time.
Yes, sir. Thanks, man. Are we gonna group hug here? Oh my gosh, you're bringing it in.